Hello, my name is Lukáš Hurt and I'm publisher of magazine Konopí, which is the only magazine about cannabis in the Czech Republic. I'm also the vice president of NGO legalizace.cz, which is the non-governmental organization focused on cannabis legalization in the Czech Republic. Thank you for the invitation to this conference, and I would like to tell you something about cannabis in the Czech Republic and the laws surrounding it. I would divide my talk in three areas. First of them would be the general attitude towards cannabis in Czech. Second one would be medical cannabis in Czech, and the third one would be recreational laws in Czech Republic. General attitude towards cannabis in the Czech Republic from the public it's pretty friendly. People like cannabis here. People don't have anything against other people who are using cannabis, and this is represented somehow in the attitude of the police, which doesn't really look for people who are using cannabis, but still we have to oblige to laws, international laws and treaties. So the laws are very similar to other European countries, but the general attitude is a bit more friendlier than the neighboring countries such as Poland or Slovakia. Regarding the medical cannabis, it was legalized here in 2014, but only in the last 2 years we have seen a significant increase in number of patients and the grams of dried cannabis that they are receiving. And this happened mainly because there are more doctors who are prescribing it now, and especially because the health insurance is covering 90% of the cost of 30 grams per month per one patient. This has really driven the number of patients up, and also their use of cannabis, mainly in the form of dry cannabis, flowers, vaporizing, and the other main form is capsules, which are prepared in the pharmacies. The one big obstacle is that we have only one domestic grower. This should soon change, and also we should have more Czech growers, and they should be able to export cannabis to other countries. So maybe soon we will see, or not so soon, but maybe hopefully soon enough, we will see some Czech medical cannabis, maybe in Polish pharmacies, maybe in German pharmacies. We will see. Regarding the recreational cannabis, as I said, we have to oblige to international treaties. So basically, the cannabis is illegal. It's illegal to grow. It's illegal to handle. It's illegal to sell it, and it's illegal to possess it. The only thing which is not illegal is the use itself, which is legal in most countries, but obviously if you are using cannabis, you need to possess some of it. So if you possess more than 10 grams, it's usually treated as a criminal offense. So the main difference between Czech and countries like Poland or Slovakia, which are a bit more conservative, is that we have this. It's not a law; it's like a directive which says there is a amount which is smaller than small. It means that if you are caught with 10 grams of dried cannabis and not more, it's treated as you are fined. You can get fined with up to something like 600 euro, but you don't have to face the criminal prosecution. When you are caught with, for example, 12 grams of dried cannabis, then it can be treated as a criminal offense, and you may go to court, and you may end up with some parole or something like that, with 6 months probation or something like that. But usually people don't go to jail for such small amounts. The same applies to growing cannabis at home. If people grow up to 5 plants, it's usually considered only as an offense and not as a criminal deed. So if you are growing 6 plants, then it's much more serious than growing 5 plants. But the one very important thing is that people who are growing maybe only 3 plants, and they start cutting it and harvesting it and drying the plants, then immediately it's treated as a criminal deed, and there should be or could be some severe prosecution if police find it hanging in your attic or somewhere. So that's what most people in Czech Republic don't know. They basically think it's legal to grow 5 plants, and that's why so many people grow this amount of plants. But once you start to drying it, then it immediately becomes a crime. So people should be aware of that, but most of them are not. And as I said, even the police, they are not. It's not. They are not trying to search it in people's houses. But when somebody calls police and says, my neighbor is growing cannabis, police has to check it. And when they check it and find something, of course they have to follow the law and start either prosecution if it's more than 5 plants, or if they are drying it at home, or give them a fine or something like that. In regards to possible changes, I would like to say that we have the parliamentary election in October this year, beginning of October, and there are big chances that the coalition of Pirate and one other liberal democratic party which formed the coalition, they could hopefully beat a current prime minister who is oligarch Andrej Babiš. And these two parties, and especially the Pirate Party, is trying to push cannabis legalization for people for their own use. So it wouldn't be like the American model or Canadian, where in America you have many states who legalized for recreational use, and they usually start with immediately with regulated markets, so people can buy it in specialized shops. And this would not be the case here in Czech Republic, because the draft of the Pirate Party to legalize cannabis is only intended as a first step, and this first step would only cover people who are growing at home for their own purpose. So if this becomes law, if the Pirate Party succeeds and they form the next government, which is a real possibility, according to the polls, then maybe we could have a legalization for personal use, when people over 18 years of age would be allowed to grow up to 5 or 4 plants at home, and then harvest it and dry it and store and use something like 1 kilo per person for the whole year. So this would be a very, very significant change. Although people who are pro-legalization, they argue that without starting the regulated market, it still will be loads of the market will be still shared by the black market and by dealers. So it's only considered as a first step, but the Pirate Party, they think they have to start with something smaller in order to persuade other parties who may be open to it. But if they try to tell them immediately we'll be selling it in specialized the other parties might be backing off. So I think it's a clever step, and we will see how it evolves after the election and what the results will be. But the possibility that the Pirate Party will be forming the next government is really, really real. Okay, so I think that's everything I wanted to say about the recreational market and the medical market in the Czech Republic and the regulations surrounding it. Maybe what's one other interesting thing is the really huge boom of the CBD business and CBD flowers, which are being sold all around the country in shops and in internet shops. And these they are either flowers or CBD oils, and they usually contain they have to contain less than 0.2 or 0.3% THC in order to be sold, but still the law is not really clear, and there are some lawyers who are arguing that these shops might be actually breaking Czech law, and then there are of course some European regulations and the discussion about treating CBD as a novel food. So it's really it's a really pretty gray area. And still, the shops are popping up at every corner in many towns and in many cities. And in Prague, you find like tens or dozens, maybe hundreds of them now. So it's really interesting how this plays out. And also, there are actually this CBD cannabis with less than 0.3% THC is being grown at many places and at many grow sites in Czech Republic. And again. The law enforcement, they haven't said anything about it. They didn't make any argument openly. So it's happening in the Czech Republic, and we will see how the law enforcement and the Justice Department, how they will react when they decide to say something about it, or how they perceive it, what they think about it. So, but still, it's happening, and the CBD boom is very huge. And one last thing is it's connected to CBD. It's growing of the industrial hemp, of those strains which are registered under the EU regulations as industrial hemp, and what's happening in Czech Republic that there are many growers growing it, but like growers, I'm talking about maybe farmers, mainly farmers, agricultural people who grow various crops and they grow hemp as well. So what happened here last year, that there was a sentence or one hemp grower was accused of breaking the law because his registered hemp strain had over 0.3% THC, and he was actually convicted for that, sentenced for some probation time, but eventually the higher court said that they have to release him, but it only shows that even ordinary farmers, ordinary people from agriculture sector, when they start to grow hemp, and they obey the laws, they can have problems when the weather is too warm, and then this one strain can have even few more percentage, and maybe the police doesn't do the analysis right, so they made up facing courts, and they have to go to the court and being prosecuted even though they are growing hemp which is registered. So on this example, I just wanted to show you that even though the Czech Republic is perceived as a very liberal country, and it has probably one of the more liberal laws in compared to other European countries, especially countries like Poland and Slovakia, which have really strict laws against cannabis, still it's not really easy for people who are involved in this, even from the medical side or from the hemp industry. So we really need to clarify the laws and also move in the direction of legalization, decriminalization, and stop treating people who are using cannabis and who are growing cannabis for their purposes and not selling it to minors, for example. Stop treating them as criminals, but as ordinary people who maybe have one beer in the evening or something like that. So we really should focus on what's happening in the United States, in Canada, in Uruguay, and I think the whole Europe should pay close attention to it, and I hope this conference will help to make this happen. Thank you very much for your attention, and enjoy your conference. Bye bye.